Welcome to the PJ Hoop Podcast. I'm your host, PJ, and if this is your very first time checking out my podcast, first and foremost, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to check out my podcast. I promise you won't be disappointed. So this is a basketball podcast, and on my podcast, I like to cover high school, college, international, and of course, the NBA itself. Normally, I go over 4 segments. So the 4 segments I normally go over is a segment I like to call PJ's Echelon, and in that segment, I like to talk about my power rankings. Another segment is a segment I like to call What's New, and in What's New, I talk about NBA news, statistical history, or me ranting. Another one is Games of the Week. In Games of the Week, I'm talking about games of some type of significance, games I enjoyed watching, or games I'm looking forward to. And the last segment is a segment I like to call In the Lab. Now, in the Lab, I'm covering NBA rookies, high school, international, and college basketball players. But this episode today is going to be previewing and getting us ready for the NBA playoffs. I'm going to give you guys my predictions for the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. But then also moving forward, I won't be doing those 4 segments, obviously, because obviously we're moving into a different type of season in basketball. For the rest of the playoffs, we'll be just talking about the Eastern Conference and Western Conference playoffs week in and week out. And then after the playoffs, we'll get ready for the draft. And then after the draft, we'll get ready for free agency and we'll start our team season previews. If you never got to catch any of my season preview episodes from last summer, I would highly recommend going to check those out. I thought I had some really good information about all 30 teams. They're organized by divisions if you're interested in watching those. Anyways, today's episode, again, we're going to do the NBA playoffs. We're going to start off with the Eastern Conference. And mind you guys, this is being recorded Friday, April 18th at about 1:30 p.m. I was debating on if I wanted to record this after the other 2 playing games tonight, but truth be told, I guess no disrespect. I guess it is. No disrespect, pretty much. I don't think any of these teams winning tonight are going to be threats to the teams that they're playing in the first round. So I was just like, let me just get this out the way. Plus, tomorrow morning, there's super early games I got to watch. And then also, I'm going to Las Vegas tomorrow. So I just want to, get this out and get this done and over with. So I don't want to waste any more of you guys' time. Let's just dive straight into it. We're going to start off with the Eastern Conference. So the very first matchup I want to talk about, it's going to be the Cleveland Cavaliers versus either the Atlanta Hawks or the Miami Heat. Again, like I said, truth be told, doesn't matter who they play. I think Cleveland's just going to be overwhelming, too much offense, and yeah, just enough defense. So I got Cleveland winning that first round series. I don't want to waste any time on that. The next matchup is Boston versus Orlando. I think Boston is going to be, again, too overwhelming offensively. I talked a lot about Orlando over this year, how I felt that Orlando just needs more offense. I like Jalen Suggs. Don't get me wrong. I really do like him as a complimentary piece, but if he's your third option on offense, I think you're just kind of stagnant, So I've been saying for a while, I think Orlando needs to go out and get a scoring guard, like a scoring point guard. I've talked about Anthony Simons. I've talked about Trae Young. Those are some of the guards that, could potentially be on the market, and I wouldn't mind seeing in Orlando. I've seen something that somebody tried to say Trae Young wouldn't be good with them. I think he would be good with them because it's like, oh, he's ball dominant. Yeah, he's ball dominant, but also putting him in an environment with 2 other, or at least another ball dominant player like Paolo, could also free up Trae Young being more of a, running off the screens type of player. And also, he's a horrible defender because he's so little. I call him Mice Trae. I know a lot of people call him Ice. I call him Mice because he's so little. But I think him being in Orlando also will allow him to preserve some of his energy and put a little bit more effort on that defensive end, being with Paolo and Franz. So I think Trae Young would be a really good option for them. But even if they don't get Trae Young, I don't really care if it's Trae Young. I don't care who it is, but they need more scoring. Okay, this team just needs more scoring, plain and simple. But yeah, I got Boston winning that series pretty easily. I'm not gonna tell you guys how many games I think each of the series will go, because I did that last year, and I was just stressing. I was overthinking stuff. I was overthinking it. So just letting you guys know, I think Boston wins that series. I think they just got too much offense. The next series is gonna be the Knicks in Detroit. Detroit obviously has had a really good season. In my preseason, I was debating on if I wanted to go with Detroit or the Hornets to make the play-in / playoffs. I decided to go with the Hornets, but obviously I was wrong. It ended up being Detroit, so I wasn't surprised. I was surprised by how high up in the rankings Detroit ended up being. Yeah, I was surprised by that, but I wasn't surprised that they're a playoff team. But I got the Knicks winning this series. I think the Knicks, again, just like last series, I think just got too much offense. I think the series would be a lot more interesting if Detroit had Jaden Ivey straight up. I think this would be a lot more funner series and could add real drama. But yeah, I got New York in this series. Yeah, I'm not gonna again waste any time on that. I just think New York's gonna win this series. I don't. If I had to pick how many games, I think Cade's good enough to get you one, potentially 2 games. So I guess I would say Knicks in 6 is what I guess I would say if I had to pick a number. But yeah, I got the Knicks winning that series. The next series, which in my opinion is probably the most exciting first round matchup in the Eastern Conference to me, and that's the Pacers and the Bucks. So I've gone back and forth with this series. Pacers and the Bucks is very interesting. Milwaukee won the season series 3-1. And Milwaukee's team has kind of, teams like their starters are a little different now. The Pacers look a lot better now. So I've gone back and forth with this. I think the Pacers, well, honestly, truth be told, I'm just going to simplify it because I don't want to waste too much of you guys' time. To me, this series is really going to depend on how many games we get from Damian Lillard. Because let's say, so I told myself, if Dame can get back by game 3, then yeah, I like the Bucks. I like the Bucks if Dame can get back by game 3. Because obviously game 3 will be, him trying to get his legs under himself. It's going to take him about at least 2 games to get his legs under himself, So I feel like if he can come back by game 3, and let's say Milwaukee, what's going to be paramount to this series is Milwaukee's got to split in Indiana, I think. I think they either got to steal game 1 or steal game 2 from Indiana. Because if they go back home down 2-0, and let's say it's Dame's first game back, and Dame's only going to be able to play, let's say, 20, 25 minutes, I don't know. But I'm not going to lie. In my mind, I'm just thinking Giannis. So I kind of want to go with the Bucks because I just think Giannis has that will. He just has that mentality, just that will to win. But offensively, I like their defense more than I like the Pacers' defense. Offensively, the Pacers obviously has more offensive weapons right now. But you know what? And this is this is in real time. I'm not, like I said, I wrote down, I had the Pacers. I got the Pacers if Dame don't come back by game 3. But you know what? I'm going to take the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm going to take the Bucks to win the series. I think it's going to be overwhelming. Giannis, so much Giannis. Pause. And yeah, so I'm gonna take the Bucks in that series, and it's gonna be a bloody series. It's gonna be hard fought. It's probably gonna go 6 or 7 games, probably more likely than not. But I think Giannis's will. I think Dame will come back. So yeah, the key to it to me is how soon does Dame get back? If he can get back at game 3, if he gets that by game 2, that would be amazing. But if he gets back by game 3, I feel confident. I'm gonna take the Bucks in this series, and obviously if no Dame, then I'll take the Pacers. But yeah, I'm gonna take the Bucks. I'll take the Bucks. Let's rock with it. I want to talk about my second round. We're just gonna stay in the Eastern Conference and just go all the way. And also I want you guys to understand that as I'm going through this, obviously as teams get eliminated, as we gather more information, I'll come on here and I'll still talk about the series and stuff and whatnot, okay? So this is not just like a one-time thing and then you won't see me for the next month and a half. That's not the case. This is just like my, before the playoffs start, just my preview and who I think is going to win. Cavs, Pacers, I guess it would be probably Cavs, Bucks in the second round. I got the Cavs. I think that would be a good series too. I just don't like, I don't really like Damian Lillard's defense. I really don't. Never really have liked his defense. I think also Cleveland's combination of offense and then also the defensive personnel that they can throw at Giannis. I like the Cavs in the second round against the Bucks. And then, sorry, I've been up since 4 this morning. My second matchup is the Celtics versus the Knicks. Celtics versus Knicks. I think it's going to be a really good series. I think it's going to be better than these regular season games we've seen. Because I believe the Knicks defenders like Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, I think physicality-wise, they're going to be able to be a lot more physical with the Boston, with Tatum, with Brown, with Derek White, with Drew Holiday. I think they'll be able to be a lot more, and vice versa as well. I'm not discouraged. I'm not saying the Celtics ain't. I'm picking the Celtics to win the series, but I'm just saying I think New York's going to put up a lot better fight in the playoffs than they did in the regular season. I'm going to take Boston. I think that's going to be a hard-fought series. I'm going to take Boston, though. I think Boston just is going to have too many offensive weapons, and they have the defensive personnel to slow down Jalen Brunson. Yeah, so I'll take take that. So then in my conference finals, we got Cavs Celtics. I've been saying this to you guys probably since January or December. I think the Cavs are a year away. And what I mean by that, I want to be very clear to you guys what I mean by a year away. I think they're a year away from being the championship favorite, This year, they're contenders, okay? No doubt about that. But I think next year is when we could really see people, placing their money and betting on the Cavs winning the title. I think they're a year away. And the reason why I say they're a year away is because I believe, and I've said this before to you guys, I believe Evan Mobley and Kenny Atkinson in particular, I think they both need to go through a playoff run as Evan Mobley being the number one option. A lot of the offense running through him. I think he needs to experience that. Or if you got, people still consider Donovan Mitchell the number one option, which is fine. But long story short, Evan Mobley being a top 2 option, okay, let's say top 2 option. I think he needs to go through a playoff run being a top 2 option. And then and seeing how that is, seeing how the schemes are and stuff. And then with Kenny Atkinson, pretty similar. I think obviously this is his first time. It's his first time being a head coach of the Cavs, first season being a head coach. So I think he needs to go through a playoff run again and see how his schemes and stuff are with this group that he currently has with Cleveland. But I wouldn't pick them to win the title. I wouldn't pick them to win the title this year because, again, I think those two components, have to go through a playoff run first before I sit up here and I pick them to win the title to win the title, essentially, So I'm going to take Boston. I think it's going to be a extremely close series. I will put on the record, though, right now, if Kristaps Porzingis is not playing in this series, give me the Cavs. Okay, give me the Cavs. If Porzingis is not playing, give me the Cavs in this series. I think Boston does need Porzingis in this series to beat the Cavs. But yeah, so that's my East. I'm taking Boston out of the East. I think Jason Tatum will win Eastern Conference MVP. I think that's really corny. I think that award's really corny. But so that's the Eastern Conference. You guys let me know. What are your thoughts on the Eastern Conference? Do you have Cleveland coming out? Do you have the Knicks? Do you have the Bucks? Do you have Boston like I do? You guys let me know down in the comment section below. Next, we're going to talk about the Western Conference. Now, there's a lot of good first round series in this one right here. So we're going to start at the top. Again, we'll start at the top. Oklahoma is either going to draw either the Grizzlies or Dallas. I think it's probably going to be Memphis. I would prefer for them to have drawn Dallas, honestly, just so they could, get that physicality of those big men in Dallas. But they're probably more likely not going to draw the Grizzlies. So I got OKC winning that series. I think they'll shut down Ja Morant for sure, or at least slow him down substantially. I got OKC, winning that series. I don't want to disrespect and say a sweep, but I got Oklahoma winning, maybe probably a gentleman's sweep. I don't think this goes 6 games, truth be told. Next series, here we go. Here go. One of the series that have been like the talk of the town right here. We got Houston versus Golden State. So I've gone back and forth with this series a lot. I want to tell you things that I liked about each team, and some other stuff I want to tell you guys. So let's talk about Houston first. Houston, in my opinion, when we put these teams side by side and we ranking, players 1 through 8, Houston, in my opinion, has a lot more talent, a lot more versatility, and potentially more scoring on that side, truth be told. So to me, Houston wins that box. Obviously, Golden State has the experience. I don't need to talk about that. That's what that is. I don't need to talk about that to you guys. You guys already know what that is. Coaching, I love Ime Udoka is one of my favorite coaches in the NBA. I've said that a couple times on here. But Steve Kerr obviously has the rings. So he's the better coach. We'll give the nod to Steve Kerr, even though Udoka, has gotten to the finals and whatnot and have turned teams around. We'll give the nod to Kerr for now. But it's not like a crazy margin with those two. Where I think the series is really interesting, and I'm not going to sit up here and talk about the defense that Houston can throw at Steph, because again, I think these are things I don't need to talk about. You guys should already know. They got Amen Thompson. They obviously got Tari Eason. They got Dylan Brooks. They got the personnel to throw at Steph, to throw at Jimmy Butler. Where I want to focus my attention on is how close these games are probably going to be. More likely than not, these are going to be really, really close games. And down the stretches of games, I'm going to trust Steph and Jimmy Butler. I just am. I love what Houston is building. I really do. So I'm going to take the Warriors. Two reasons why I'm taking the Warriors, okay? In plain English, because again, we got other stuff we got to get through. But in plain English, I'm taking the Warriors, one, because I think a lot of these games will be really close. So I'm going to bet on the team that's been there, done that. I'm going to bet on them and the vets they got. And they're going to get the whistle late in games more than some of these other players, But also, and I hate to say this, I'm not happy or proud about saying this, but I think the narrative is kind of already baked in, truth be told. I think the NBA, like I said, I'm not even happy about saying this, but I think the NBA wants to see Golden State versus the Lakers in the second round. You get Steph versus LeBron, another chapter in their playoff battles. So I think it's baked in. I'm going to take the Warriors in this series. But Houston is coming. So, I'm going to take the Warriors in that series. I'm not happy. I'm not proud of it. If it was up to me, I want to see the Rockets. I would like to see the Rockets in the second round, but like I said, I think the Warriors are going to win this series. Next series, I just talked about it. Lakers, Minnesota. I'm taking the Lakers. Again, like I just said, narrative. But also, I think the Lakers also just have more shot creators than Minnesota. The Lakers have probably 4 or 5 different players that can create their own shot. Minnesota, on any given night, Julius Randle could be one. He fades in and out. We know we're getting from Ant, but yeah, I'm taking the Lakers in this series. Minnesota, I'm sorry. Been up since 4. Minnesota got a lot of decisions to make this summer. With Julius Randle, what's going to happen with that? Yeah. So I got the Lakers in that series. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. The series I'm looking forward to the most in the West, I'm pretty sure most of you guys are, and that's the Clippers versus the Nuggets. This is going to be a very fun series. Fun fact, if you guys didn't know, or if you do know, the Denver Nuggets have never beaten a team that has won 50 games in the playoffs. Never have. Never have. You guys can look it up. They never have. With Nikola Jokic, let me correct myself. I ain't going to say never ever, because some people take that literal. But since Nikola Jokic has been on that team, they've never beaten a team with 50 wins in the playoffs. But besides that, this is interesting because, you got James Harden, who's known for having his playoff hiccups. You got that, right? And then you got, on the other end, you got Jamal Murray, who, quite frankly, I don't think he's 100%. They said he was dealing with inflammation, and I think his hamstring, that can come back at any moment. Really in the playoffs, when obviously games are more intense, more physical, what that means, muscles get tighter, easier for them to tear, it can get really funky in the playoffs really quick for players. So I don't trust that Jamal Murray's 100%, but I also don't trust James Harden as a playoff performer. And I know a lot of people have been super high on James Harden having a great season. I'm gonna just keep it a beam with you guys. I don't think he's had a great season necessarily. I do think he deserved to be an all-star, but I don't think he's been he's probably gonna make all NBA, truth be told. He'll probably make third team all NBA, maybe second team all NBA. I don't know. I'm big on efficiency, and he just has not been efficient at all this year. His efficiency is horrible. It's so bad. But yeah, anyways, I don't want to keep on talking about that. I just don't trust James Harden in the playoffs. I don't trust Murray's health necessarily. So that leaves us with Kawhi and Nikola Jokic, and that leaves us with Ty Lue versus who is the coach of Denver right now? I think his name is David something. I think it's David something. I can't remember who it is. I think it's David Adelman. I'm going to take Ty Lue over Adelman. I'm taking Nikola Jokic over Kawhi. And then that leaves the others. I think the Clippers supporting cast this year is better than the Denver Nuggets supporting cast. I like the Clippers defense better. I'm taking the Clippers. I'm taking the Clippers in a hard-fought, long series. If Jamal Murray's going to be 100%, then yeah, I'm still going to take the Clippers. I was going to say I wrote down I was going to take Denver even if he's 100%. I was like, yeah, I'll take Denver if he's 100%, but I'm not. I'm going to take the Clippers. I think the Clippers will beat them in the first round. So that sets up our second round matchups. In the second round, we got OKC versus the Clippers. And then we got LA versus Golden State. So we'll talk about OKC versus the Clippers first. This is going to be, I think it's going to be a good series. I think it's going to be a really good series for Oklahoma to go up against a team like the Clippers, who has an excellent coach, has a superstar level player in Kawhi Leonard, and they have a good chunk of playoff experience. I think it's a really good test for Oklahoma. They'll play a veteran team, a championship head coach, championship level players on that team. But I think Oklahoma City. I'm taking Oklahoma City in that series. I think defensively, I think Oklahoma City I think their defense is really going to be their calling card throughout this whole playoff run. However, how far they go, I think their defense is going to be at the forefront of it. That's just what I've seen all year long. They've looked like the best defensive team in basketball, in my opinion. There was a stretch, I think until like December or like early January, where these dudes were averaging and they had in total more steals than they had turnovers. This is a great defensive team. And I really don't hear many people giving them flowers for that. Yeah, part of it could be because they're a young team and they got a lot of energy to give during the regular season. But I just think this is a really great defensive team, and I think they're gonna box up James Harden in that second round. They're gonna box up Norman Powell in that second round. I think Kawhi will get his, but I think it's gonna be too much OKC in that second round. Yeah, I just gonna be too much OKC. I would take Oklahoma City in that matchup. Next matchup, we got LA versus Golden State. This is gonna be a fun match, of course. Steph versus LeBron. You got Jimmy Butler versus Luka. You got Austin Reeves. You got Draymond Green. You got the others. It's gonna be a good series, I think. I'm gonna take. Now we're in the second round, so bodies are a little bit more worn down. Give me. I'm thinking. Literally, I don't really have any of this written down, so this is like real time with you guys, I'm gonna take the. Give me the Lakers. I think the Lakers have more shot creators, shot makers than Golden State. Give me the Lakers. Give me the Lakers in that series. So then my conference finals, you got OKC versus the Lakers. It might be a surprise to some of you guys. Might not. I got the Thunder winning in the conference finals. And the analogy I want to give you guys on why I got the Thunder. So you guys have seen like movies or like played games where like let's say you go through some stairs or something, like a bunch of stairs, or like you're like running, you get to a door and you finally go into the room and you're like trying to catch your breath, and then you turn around and you see, let's say you see like a monster or you see a pack of wolves, and you're basically like, fuck, I gotta deal with that now. I think that's what's going to happen to the Lakers when they get to Oklahoma City in the conference finals. I think the Lakers are going to be pretty worn down. I think they'll be pretty worn down from their first round matchup. I think the first round matchup will, wear them down a little bit because Minnesota is a really good defensive team. I think the second round against Golden State, I think it's going to be a really good series. Because again, Golden State's a really good defensive team. And you got to remember, LeBron is 40. Okay, like I don't expect LeBron to come into the conference finals with a bunch of energy, We know how LeBron is. Game 1 is his fill-out game. And we know how LeBron is. But I just think I think the Lakers get to OKC in the conference finals. I think OKC's still going to have a lot of energy. And I think the Lakers will be a little bit worn down. We've seen Luka's body break down last year in the playoffs. We've seen that. Obviously, his workload will be a little bit lighter now because, he has he has more shot creators and shot makers on the Lakers team. I'm not going to take away from that. But I just think this Lakers team is going to be a little worn down. I think they're going to be tired when they get to Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma is going to have a lot of energy still. I think Oklahoma also needed to go through those 2 games late this year that they played the Lakers. I think they needed to go through those because I think if they didn't go through those, I think the Lakers probably would beat them in the conference finals. But since OKC got to see them, get a little feel for them, I'm going to take Oklahoma in this matchup against the Lakers. I think Oklahoma, again, just going to be a pack of wolves defensively. They got a bunch of bodies they can throw at Luka. LeBron is 40, okay? I don't expect LeBron to be the best player in this conference final series. I really don't. And he might be. Him and Luka might go nuke, and they might end up beating Oklahoma City. But I like Oklahoma City. I don't think the Lakers defend the perimeter that well. I think Oklahoma City is going to have a lot of driving kicks, a lot of open threes, and they're a great three-point shooting team. And then also, I don't think the Lakers have anybody to really mess with Shea. I know they got Vando. Vando's a great defender, but I don't think they mess him with Oklahoma City's defense, their ability to create shots, and then Shea. I think is just going to be too much for the Lakers to handle. So I got Oklahoma City winning the conference finals. And then in my NBA finals matchup, we got Oklahoma versus the Boston Celtics. I was talking to one of my OGs earlier about this. He's a Boston Celtic fan. He's a diehard Celtic fan. He rep the C's, hard. This is going to be, I think it's going to be a good finals. I do believe that. I just want to give you guys the narrative. I want to give you guys the narrative. So let's talk about Boston first. So, because I'm big on narratives because, in my opinion, sports, it's literally just entertainment. So, I hate to say this, but in the backdrop, the owners, the billionaires, the networks, they have an idea of who's going to win. I think the fix is in all sports. That's just my personal opinion. But I want to give you guys the narrative based on Boston winning, okay? Let's go. Let's sit back. Let's go try to go into the future. Let's try to be the press, okay? Let's try to be the ESPNs of the world or the Fox or the CNBCs, okay? Let's paint this narrative, the New York Times. Let's paint this NBA narrative, okay? So Boston wins. Boston becomes the first team since the Golden State Warriors to win back-to-back titles. That could be a headline. Jason Tatum finally gets his flowers. He wins Finals MVP. He's recognized as the potential face of the NBA. Is Boston on the cusp of being a dynasty? This would be either their third finals in 4 years. They would have won 2 titles out of the 3 trips. Tatum and Brown are still fairly young, still in their prime. So that's the narrative for Boston, okay? The narrative and then also the narrative will stay there, would be Oklahoma City just couldn't get over the hump yet. They had a great season. Future's bright for Oklahoma City. They'd probably be back next year. Now let's talk about if Oklahoma City wins. Oklahoma City becomes the youngest team in NBA history to win the NBA title. Sam Presti's, I don't know if you guys remember a couple years ago, Sam Presti had a press conference and said Oklahoma was light years ahead of everybody else in the NBA. People looked at him crazy. So that could be a headline or something that, randomly pops up again. Is Shea the face of the NBA? Shea at that point would have won the regular season MVP, Finals MVP. Would have probably put up crazy, really, really good numbers. He would have knocked off the juggernaut of the Celtics. That could be, that could be the narrative for Oklahoma City, while also saying, is Oklahoma City at the beginning of a dynasty? And then also Boston losing would be, oh, what does Boston do with this team? This team's going to have the largest tax bill going into next year. Like what are they going to do with some of those pieces? So I just wanted to give you guys those narratives because one of the two narratives will come true. And I'm pretty sure you guys know that. But again, I just want to put it out there because that's how I think, right? Now I want to talk about the X's and O's of this matchup. So for Boston, again, I'm not going to talk too much about it. They have the experience. We all already know that, okay? Arguably, I'm not here to argue it, but I know some people will. Arguably, they have the best player in the series. If you think Tatum is better than Shea, some people will argue that. I'm not here to do that. Two young coaches. We got Joe Mazzulla and Mark D. Mazzulla obviously has been there, done that, so I would give the nod to Mazzulla. The others, I'm giving the nod to Oklahoma City. I think the others of Oklahoma is better than the others of Boston. And let me define who the others of Boston are before you guys start, coming in the comment sections and coming for me. The others for me, for Boston, would be like Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard, Cornette, Al Horford. Like those are their others. Oklahoma City's others would be would be Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Caruso, I would say, are like their kind of their others, and Lou Dort, obviously Lou Dort as well. But I think Oklahoma has better others than Boston. Obviously, Boston's others have been there. Oklahoma City's has one player that's really been there in Caruso. And Hartenstein last year obviously was with the Knicks. And even some of the others for Oklahoma, they got a little playoff run last year. But I like their others more this year because I think those core players have improved. Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, really those two players have improved substantially from last year. So I really like those players. So those are the others, okay? Now let's talk about matchups. I think, and I haven't really seen nobody really talk about it, but I believe that Oklahoma City has the personnel to neutralize and potentially put in a straitjacket Jaylen Brown. They have about 4 to 5 different defenders they can throw specifically at him, while also neutralizing the off-the-dribble playmaking and passing of Derek White and also Jrue Holiday. Jrue Holiday obviously is an older player, so I think these young Thunder defenders are going to be able to recover pretty quickly when Derek White and Jrue Holiday is trying to go off the dribble and make something happen. I think Oklahoma's going to be able to guard them one-on-one really well and neutralize their three-point shooting, neutralize Boston three-point shooting, which OKC is first in the NBA in defending the three. Obviously, they're first in defensive efficiency too, but they're first in defending the three. I think Boston is either second or third in defending the three-point shot as well, I believe. But obviously, we know Boston's main thing is shooting threes, So I think OKC is going to defend and neutralize Boston three-point shooting and neutralize Jaylen Brown. They'll be able to neutralize Jaylen Brown. But I also want to talk about, I think Jason Tatum. I think Tatum's going to have a good series because I don't think Oklahoma has anybody to guard Jason Tatum. So I think he'll have a really good final series. But I also want to talk about things that are not so good about Oklahoma for this series. One, Boston obviously is going to have the experience. A lot of these games probably are going to be close games because these are two highly, highly good, great defensive teams. So I think these games are going to be really, really close. And they both defend each other's strengths really well. So these games are going to be really close. Boston obviously has got the experience. They've been there, done that. So they're going to probably have a better idea of what to do in the clutch. So I would favor Boston in the clutch, no doubt. But then also with Oklahoma City, Chet and Jalen Williams, are they going to be able to rise to the stage? Because I've seen them fade a lot throughout the season in games. Like there's games where both of them have, like 12 points, 13 points, only taking 7 shots apiece, not really there, So I do worry about them fading in and out. I really, really do. Boston has the experience. I think Tatum's going to have a monster series. But with that being said, the team I think is going to win the NBA Finals is Boston. Just the piece about Boston you guys should know, the last team to win the NBA title to not be in the top 10 in field goal percentage was in 2010 with the Los Angeles Lakers. Boston currently right now, I think they're like 17th or 18th in field goal percentage this season. So that's just one of the metrics that I like to use. Doesn't mean it's going to be right or wrong. Who knows? Boston could break the streak. But yeah, I'm going to take the Thunder. And with that being said, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to check out my podcast. Again, I'm your host, PJ, and PJ's out.